Overlanding, or vehicle-reliant exploring and traveling, is exploding in popularity across the world, and meanwhile, four-wheel drive vehicles are seemingly becoming soft. More and more vehicles are losing their body-on-frame design, and body panels seem like they get thinner with every new generation. Since seeing the Grenadier in person, I have put a deposit down, and pricing is still unclear here, so whether or not I'll actually own one is still up in the air, but I know a lot of people are interested in these, so I thought I would share some of what I've learned. One of the good and bad things that INEOS has done is from the get-go, they've had their prototypes on display. So people can go and check these things out and give them feedback of we like this, we don't like this. Part of the problem with that is so many people have had the opportunity to take video and photos of these things. Those are not the final versions of the vehicle. And so improvements have been made on some of those. And I'm pretty sure a lot of those prototypes are still bouncing around because they're being used as like a demo vehicle. So people are still seeing something that is not the final version. I wanted to clear up some of the details and some of the things that I've learned by reading online, and I've been reading some of this information from forums from different countries, videos from different countries. Something to take into consideration when you're watching this video is I am in America, and we don't have vehicles like this here. We don't have the 70 Series Land Cruiser, and nobody has the old Defender anymore. But also, we just don't get things like the Hilux, a vehicle that's a small vehicle that has a respectable payload. Pretty much everything we have has a payload of like a Toyota Camry, and I'm not exaggerating by that much. The Ford Ranger being the exception. But the Grenadier has a respectable payload. It's a very heavy-duty built vehicle from what I've seen so far, and so it's particularly exciting for me and for the United States market. So larger tires, that's a big one that people have been commenting on. So 35-inch tires will be able to go on this because Ratcliffe himself had a version of the Grenadier with 35-inch tires on it. There's videos of it. Apparently it did require some trimming, but I would say that it's not going to take very long before people even fit 37s on this. It's going to happen. I mean, they do it on Tacomas, so they're going to figure out how to do it on something like this. Part of the problem with mounting a 35 on the rear for your spare tire is going to be that the doors, the way the small door opens, it's designed to open basically to give you access if you can't fully swing your rear doors open like in a city or something like that. Because of the way the doors open, I guess I'm doing it backwards, your spare tire would mount here and the tire would actually get in the way of the smaller door. So if you do put a bigger tire on, it will require that you open the larger door to open the smaller door. There's little things like that that are going to pop up, but tire carriers will come out for these vehicles, of course, in due time. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that, but honestly, if you're getting into a 35 or 37-inch tire, then you're probably going to be doing modifications anyway. Something that I'm very excited about is the payload on this thing. The payload on this was originally somewhere around 2,200 or 2,300 pounds. It's been cut down to 1,900 pounds, but still in the United States, that is incredible. Some of the top equipped Toyota Tundras, which are basically a school bus, they have a payload of 1,900 pounds. The difference here is that payload, it already has bumpers, it already has skid plates, and it'll already have a winch, which of course the winch will probably take away from some of that. But the fact that these come built up, you're going to have a lot of payload to mess with. Usually if you buy something like a Toyota FJ Cruiser, you have a 1,200, 1,300 pound payload. Once you put a bumper on it and the rear bumper on it and skid plates, you've cut that payload nearly in half. So this is going to have a lot more room to play with. But there was a video out there, somebody in the UK, I believe it was at an INEOS event, and he was told that the Grenadier was being tested well over its payload, twice its payload, because they know that people will overload these things. So a lot of people are worried about where they're going to get parts from and how they're going to work on these things. It will be free to access 3D diagrams of parts on the INEOS website. So if you're going to tear apart a hub, for instance, you can blow that up and you can see what wear parts are inside, and you can order those ahead of time off of that 3D diagram. So basically you can see what the inside looks like without actually taking it apart, which is very useful. I've never had access to anything like that, and I work on industrial equipment professionally. Okay, so let's touch on the interior a little bit. These could recently be optioned with carpet or rubber floors, but the carpet has been eliminated due to carpet quality. The front and rear seats are made by Recaro, and a good seat from the factory is huge for a vehicle that's being built for travel. I appreciate when manufacturers don't try to reinvent the wheel and go with something that's proven. In the rear cargo area, it has upper rear bolt holes, designed for something like a cargo net or a dividing system for a dog, etc. This isn't a kit where you hook it up to the plastic grab handles, but actual bolt holes for whatever you can find use for. The rear cargo area with the seats removed is essentially a 5-foot by 5-foot space. The front optional safari windows were very cool to see in person, and they are removable and tinted from the factory, but if you're going to do something like a rooftop tent, they're probably going to be rendered useless, so take that into consideration. If optioned correctly, all of the wiring for the lights, the winches, the air compressors, it's already in place for you, so all you have to do is just plug in the accessories and you're good to go. I'm still not sure about off-road mode, but waiting mode is for turning off certain electronic devices such as the radiator fan for when you're crossing deeper streams. You might read complaints about the right side footwell having an overly large awkward hump. The hump is to make room for the exhaust, but this has been reduced in size recently. The dash in the Grenadier doesn't have a normal gauge cluster. It's dead center and utilizes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto because, again, INEOS understands that another company can do some things better than they can, so why waste the time developing something that people won't use anyway? The center dash design is kind of quirky, but it likely keeps the cost down, so multiple configurations across the world aren't necessary, so you can basically just switch that heads-up display around, and then right-side drivers will have access to their gauges in the same way that we do. The system can relay waypoints to other Grenadiers days later, so if a friend was coming to find you at camp, for instance, they'll get some sort of a notification of where you turned off. This system must rely on automatically drop GPS waypoints, but I'm not entirely sure on how it works. It's pretty cool though, and I do hope it proves to be reliable, because this would be huge for buddies trying to find you in the middle of the mountains. The fuse panels and batteries are under the rear seats, easy access, but I'm curious what will happen if somebody floods the vehicle. The power inverter is no longer an option, but that's okay by my standards because usually the OEM ones are low output, so I'd be upgrading to a Red Arc system anyway. So let's talk about the exterior. The Grenadier has a utility belt. It's an optional strip that can be fitted to carry pretty much anything you want, and this type of cargo handling system is used on trailers, airplanes, and boats. These types of cargo handling points can handle 200 to 250 pounds, much like the bars that you see along the roof on this vehicle. Speaking of the roof bars, they're designed for tying stuff down or holding onto, and they can hold over 200 to 250 pounds roughly, and think of strapping a canoe to the top of your truck without even using a roof rack. The reason you don't need a roof rack is because this thing is built with real body panels. If you have something like a rooftop tent, you're still going to need a roof rack, but if it's just bags or general gear, you don't need it. Optional diamond foot plates can be added on top of the front fenders, and these are for standing on, leaning on, whatever you want to do, and being able to stand on this thing again speaks to the panel thickness. I'm not sure of another vehicle in the US that I would stand on without expecting it to cave in. The Grenadier is a very heavy vehicle at 5,900 pounds, but take into consideration that these are built with hefty rock rails, thick steel skid plates, and steel bumpers, so the weight probably matches most built and armored vehicles anyway. It will come equipped with Brembo disc brakes front and rear to help stop all of that weight. INEOS says this isn't built for the off-road enthusiast, and I think this is more of a Toyota Land Cruiser 70 series type of suspension, so if you want maximum flex, buy a Jeep. It does, however, have solid front and rear axles, and these can be optioned with front, rear, and center locks. The payload on the Grenadier was originally around 2,300 pounds, but is now down to about 1,900. One individual claimed an INEOS rep told them that the prototypes had been tested at nearly twice their payload because they know that people will overload them. The Grenadier has a BMW B58 straight-six turbocharged engine, the same engine that Toyota used in the new Supra, and it's apparently reliable, but time will have to tell, and the diesel variant will not be available in the United States. Okay, so let's take a moment to discuss aftermarket modifications on these things. Alucab has looked into the Grenadier and they are considering a roof conversion for it. From what I understand, they have to crush the prototypes legally, so INEOS is going to send some of those prototypes to Alucab so they can start cutting away on them and test fitting designs. In the middle of making this video, the first Grenadier has rolled off the assembly line, and as you can see in this photo, the steering stabilizer can be seen hanging pretty low. Some are claiming this is a prop to move the vehicle along the assembly line, but there is conflicting information. I wouldn't worry about it too much though, because just like the Jeep, aftermarket parts will correct this. Also, another update since production began is that the two-tone option is no longer offered. Just like the interior carpet, INEOS found that this quality wasn't up to their standards, and it's unfortunate as it's part of the vehicle's distinctive look, but please note that this was never going to be painted, it's just a vinyl wrap, and honestly, it could probably be done cheaper at your local shop anyway, but we have a long way to go before this releases in the United States, so they might have this ironed out before then.
I'm sure there's some things that I missed, and I'm sure there's some information floating around. And if you guys have any information to add to this, please add it to the comments below, because I think there's a lot of us that are very interested in these vehicles and what they're going to bring to the table. And there's just a lot of misinformation that's floating around from the prototypes. So help me out to kind of clear some of that information. And as I learn new things and as reviews start coming out from other markets, I will be paying attention to a lot of that and seeing what people are saying about these. So I will be doing another video on the Grenadier soon, because they will be releasing overseas here shortly. And as those reviews start to come out, I'm gonna collect more and more information, and I'm gonna kind of judge if I really want one based off of what others are saying and how they are performing. I have reached out to Alucab, and Alucab has told me that they are supposed to be receiving one of the vehicles to start doing their prototyping on, and as soon as I know that Alucab's making a conversion, I will update you. And as you've seen on my channel before, I'm huge into Alucab products. I love their stuff. And so I'm basing my purchase of this thing off of the price, of course, but also off of if Alucab is going to make a conversion, because my next vehicle, I want space to be inside of. And if they're not going to do a roof chop on this thing, I don't know that I want it. You know some stuff about the Grenadier that you find interesting or you think people should know, add it to the comments below. It is helpful, and I'll go over that information in the next video. And of course, if you're looking for more information, read the comments below and you can collect some more information from that. So that about does it. If I missed some stuff, please add it to the comments. And INEOS, if you are watching this, please reach out to me if you're doing a test drive in the United States. My wife works for the airlines. I fly for free, so I will be there. Just give me a little bit of a heads up and I'll bring the camera. So anyway, guys, I do appreciate you watching. I'll keep you updated on everything that I learn. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.